Today, I want to have an in-depth conversation about Nintendo's release lineup through the rest of 2024 and some games we even know to now be confirmed for 2025, following, of course, the massive June Nintendo Direct we had that did indeed outline the rest of this year's release schedule. Most likely, there's a small chance we get a September Direct. I am not personally expecting it with the amount of 2025 or late 2024 content we saw featured at this Direct presentation, but I do think there's some implications for new hardware this fall, and we may dive into that for a moment in this video as well, but primarily the focus being around the software, because all the way leading into this Direct, myself and many others online were well aware that whenever we finished with Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, and of course we did get that Nintendo World Championship NES Edition confirmation for a July game, but we knew largely Nintendo was going to get close to completing their entire release roadmap schedule, and now we have an official updated document from Nintendo themselves that outlines all their software that's coming out, and that's really what I want to walk through today and talk about what us Switch gamers can be expecting to play, and just how much support might we be able to expect for the rest of the Switch's life cycle as we talk about the transition period to new hardware. So before we get on the same page with all of that, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification to join Sunbro Nation if you're new here. And I want to first kick it off with mentioning the month of May that is of course now behind us, but we did see two first-party published Nintendo titles technically in that month of May, which was Endless Ocean Luminous, a new game in the Endless Ocean series, which I'm not personally a big fan of. I didn't end up picking up the game myself. I know it has kind of a core fan audience, but it's definitely not one that's going to impress on the sales numbers, if you will. But the larger game, of course, Paper Mario Thousand Year Door in May, which I did pick up and I'm still having a blast playing through at the moment, that made for a solid month for first-party Nintendo Switch releases. Then this month in June, of course, the game we've known about this whole time, that is just about ready to drop this upcoming week on Thursday, is Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. And there's even a new overview trailer that was recently put up on Nintendo of America's channel. If you played this game before in the 3DS, you might be less inclined to pick it up. I will likely pick it up at some point and play through it because I am a Luigi's Mansion fan, but I didn't play the one on the 3DS. So this one for me, even though it's $60 and it was originally sold for $40, I may end up throwing it into my collection and playing through it at some point in time. But we do have kind of an interesting gap from Nintendo from a first-party perspective past that, because we have to wait all the way until September to get their major first-party game, but it is a big one, and it's one, of course, in the Legend of Zelda franchise, and we are talking about Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. This comes out September 26th, and it's a top-down Zelda game, very reminiscent of that of Link's Awakening in terms of the art style, but it is not going to play like Link's Awakening because you play as Zelda this time around, and she is very much focused more on the puzzle aspect of solving things. Also, it seems like the combat, you might be summoning other enemies to fight back, you might be dropping rocks on people's heads with the Tri-Wand. It's going to have a lot of unique gameplay ideas. It definitely seems like they took a slice of that creativity pie from Tears of the Kingdom, like play the game how you want to play and solve the puzzle the way you want to solve it, and kind of threw that into a top-down Zelda. But I am excited for the story of a top-down Zelda in the modern age. I'm excited for this world to unfold, what we're going to learn about this Hyrule that does seem to be very reminiscent of A Link to the Past Hyrule, and it already seems like it's going to have some big timeline implications if you're into that. And so this was a big surprise release. The fact that we're getting a brand new, from the ground up, fresh story Legend of Zelda game a year after Tears of the Kingdom, just about a year and a half or less from Tears of the Kingdom's actual release, is pretty insane when you stop and think about it, and it speaks to the strength of Nintendo and how they've diversified their teams that used to work on 3DS games and the smaller projects, the handheld games in addition to the console games. Now they have all those teams working to support one console, which that's why we are even having the conversation of another mainline brand new Zelda game releasing the year after Tears of the Kingdom. It's only possible because of that strategy from Nintendo, and I am very hyped to see more in-depth footage of this game as we get closer. But again, that's our big September 2024 title. We now know October 2024 has Super Mario Party Jamboree, which it does seem largely to be a sequel of Super Mario Party on face value. I was not the biggest fan of Super Mario Party because it's primarily tied to motion controls. However, this one does have some promise because quite a few more boards to play. They look a lot more creative than what the ones in Super Mario Party were, and they have this very interesting up to 20 player online mode where you're racing through mini games trying to get the highest score and things, but up to 20 players in a Mario Party games sounds kind of ridiculous. So that's going to be cool to see how it unfolds. I am hoping there's a mixture of some of the motion mini games, but also having those more classical controller style games as well that you can play with the Pro Controller. I really don't want to only be able to play this game with the Joy-Con. That's my big ask. So I hope that Nintendo is kind of solving for that, and maybe you can turn on mini games that are more motion based or turn them off to kind of give you a best of both worlds experience. Like if you play Mario Party Superstars, you're playing entirely with the controller, a traditional one, and not really anything to do with the Joy-Con at all. So there's probably a happy medium in there to make both sides of fans happy, like the ones that like motion controls and the ones that prefer a traditional controller, but we'll have to see for that. But that is the big October 2024 game. Then in November 2024, we have a brand new entry in the Mario and Luigi franchise, which it has been over 9 years since we've seen Nintendo revisit this franchise. And let me tell you something, Nintendo has been going hard on their Mario RPG games lately, because this is largely, from my understanding, plays very similar to that of Super Mario RPG, Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, and any other Mario RPG game you can think about. It's just got a different mechanic where Mario's like tied to the A button, Luigi's tied to the B button, and you're kind of trying to time them right. And it's more of a tag team type of setup whenever you're going in to fight enemies, but you're still talking about a turn-based and timing correctly your attacks Mario RPG style game. And I'm just surprised to see so much support for the series, but I do love the art direction that Nintendo went with this game, because it looks like if you took Mario and Luigi and threw them into the cel-shaded world of Wind Waker almost, even with like that island tropical theme kind of being there. I am excited to see how this game ultimately is received when it comes out. But this is really our big holiday 2024 title, because unless if we get a Pokemon Presents and something is a surprise announcement, like a black and white remake that might come out this holiday season, or even Let's Go Johto or something like that, if that doesn't happen, this will be the big holiday system seller for Nintendo. And you can say that Mario Party is a big deal, just out a month earlier. And of course, we talked about Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, also a big deal, but out more in September. But that's how we're looking to stack up 2024, which I don't think is a bad way to finish out the year by any stretch of the imagination. You have to keep in mind, we are in the 8th year of sales for Nintendo Switch. It has already been a full 7.5 years that the system's been out now, or just about. So the fact that we are seeing the level of software support that we are this late into the Switch's life cycle is definitely a win, especially considering that Nintendo has already confirmed to us that they will be talking about their successor console. And on the note of 2024, before we talk about 2025, I want to insert the idea and conversation about whether or not we might see Nintendo reveal their Nintendo Switch 2 to us this year, because the reality is when you look at all that software, you could make the case that Nintendo might not have to talk about their next gen hardware until March or later of next year, which would lead you to believe maybe they're going to go for a holiday 2025 launch. I, however, have a different opinion on this, and it's not to say that it will ultimately be right. Nintendo's highly unpredictable, but all of the internal rumors were that it was actually set to come out holiday season 2024, and Nintendo chose to delay it about 6 months and release it in March of 2025. Now, Nintendo knows they are in a different position with the Switch, with the evergreen software sales and how the hardware continues to still sell so late into this console's life cycle, that naturally they will want to support the Switch for a period of time, probably longer than we've seen them support any other console in a prior transition, where first-party games may indeed still be released on the Nintendo Switch for, let's say, a full year alongside of the Switch 2. But what will not be released on the Switch that we have today, that family of consoles, will be the more ambitious projects. So the new 3D Marios of the world, maybe a brand new Donkey Kong that's built just for the next gen console. A game like an Ocarina of Time remake that's very ambitious visually one day will come out only for the successor to the Switch. They're going to put out a lot of Switch 2 exclusive content, but I do think there's going to be a bulk of games that still release on the current family of Switch systems, just because the install base that's out there, that the ones who aren't upgrading right away, Nintendo's still going to want to get some brand new software money from those users that already own their hardware. It's just a logical business move, and that's why I think we are seeing as strong of a software lineup as we are, not to mention the fact that they have also committed to a pretty lofty goal of 13.5 million units sold during this fiscal year, which ends March 2025. So they have to do something and pull out more stops to move more units. And Another thing that they're going to do that with is their new Switch Lite console that was revealed alongside the launch of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. Like, they're going to pull some additional levers. They're going to have probably more aggressive bundles than ever in the holiday season, and it's even a possibility that we see a price drop during the holiday season, although I am feeling maybe a little bit less likely for that to happen since we know about how strong their software lineup is now. But it is in the conversation and in the realm of possibility that we see them do some type of holiday season sale for the Nintendo Switch family of consoles we have right now. And I personally believe we are going to learn about this console in the fall, around the time that we would normally have that direct. Maybe it's September, maybe it's October, but we get that initial reveal of their next gen console and we find out it's backwards compatible and all of the Switch software we're buying right now will work on the next gen Switch. Then we get a media blowout event early January next year, and then we likely get the launch in March. That's kind of the timeline that I'm thinking Nintendo will stick to. But again, following this direct, you could make the case that they may hold out just a little bit longer because they actually have software built out for the Switch, which takes us into the software conversation for 2025, which starts off with none other than Donkey Kong Country HD. And when I first saw this project revealed at the Nintendo Direct, I was obviously very happy, and I still am, because I love this game from the Wii, and I honestly want a better, easier way to play it than hooking up my Wii to experiencing it, or even just emulating it. I want it on my Switch. I want a native experience. It's going to be nice to see it come over to the Switch, but I was very curious on why this is a January 2025 release when it seems like a simple project, and it seems like one you could easily throw on the shelf around the holiday season of this year. And then I started to realize that this is largely probably timed in January to more align with the theme park that is opening in 2025 in the US here in Orlando, where Donkey Kong and the Super Mario World will be opening at the same time simultaneously. Like, it's going to be a big deal. Nintendo's going to want to tie things into DK. We now know that I think it's April 2026 will be the launch of the next Super Mario Bros. Movie, and Mario and Donkey Kong kind of go hand in hand in their lore. So I think Nintendo just wants to have something out in 2025 to help kind of capitalize on these new eyeballs for the Donkey Kong experience. And if you look at the visual style of Donkey Kong Country Returns and what they did with the theme park, they go hand in hand. So that's how they're kicking off the year. That takes us all the way into when we will likely see them hold their next direct in February. And I do think that we will find out about a lot of new games at that point in time. And then you have the big two that have 2025 release dates, but we don't know any more information on. First, with Pokemon Legends ZA, we will likely get another update around that game from the Pokemon Company themselves. So far, it's just a reveal trailer kind of showing off the city that we're likely progressing in, but no real gameplay footage. And finally, after 7 long years plus of waiting and a reboot happening and everything that you could imagine, we saw footage of Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, and the jury is very much still out on when this game launches, but it looks incredible in my opinion. We know it to be confirmed to be a Nintendo Switch game, so any of the theories out there that it might be a Switch 2 exclusive, that is not the case. There was a Nintendo Switch logo at the end of the trailer, and Nintendo may be saving this as a cross-generational title that will launch alongside of the next-gen Nintendo Switch hardware, but they will absolutely put it on the base Switch we have right now, which is a win because Metroid needs to sell well, and it would not sell that well if you threw it on a brand new console as much as it would if you threw it on something that has that 141 million plus install base. So this does not have to launch alongside of the next gen console. I really think that Metroid Prime 4 might actually be a summer or even late 2025 game, and we will likely still have time for Nintendo to shadow drop Prime 2 and 3 into the marketing build-up for this game at something like the February Direct. Just because they didn't talk about them here doesn't mean those games still aren't happening. Pikmin 1 and 2 HD came over as a shadow drop announcement just so players could play all the Pikmin games on one console when they're numbered like that. And obviously the Pikmin story is not near as in-depth as the Metroid story, so I do think Nintendo will do that. But Prime 4, I'm thinking a later 2025 game, and I'm thinking it does launch simultaneously on the Switch and a version of it for the next gen hardware that is just enhanced visually, has ray tracing, has more crisp visuals and just a higher resolution and all of those little extra perks that you would expect to go along with a more powerful console. But all of that to say, Nintendo's software lineup is definitely looking a lot more interesting now than it was walking into the June Direct, and we have some exciting timelines of what to expect from a software perspective from this company. And I do think we're going to see a longer cross-generational period of support than we've ever seen from Nintendo in the past when it comes to first-party releases still coming out on the base Switch whenever we have the successor to that Switch. So Let me know in the comments down below what you think of Nintendo's release roadmap now that it's way more built out and way more fleshed out. Do you think we do get a September Direct and we actually learn about that much more software from Nintendo? Or do you think this is largely going to be it until something like February of next year? And do you think Nintendo is revealing their next gen successor to the Switch in the fall season this year and it'll launch March of next year? Or do you think that gets pushed back even further and maybe we're not talking about a launch until holiday season 2025? So thanks so much for watching the video today, everyone. Make sure you share all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below before you leave, regardless if we agree or disagree. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, turn your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.